to talk about the background of Colonel Summers Park. Jeff?
Good evening, everybody. Everybody hear me okay? I don't know where any of this people often say that I don't. I did, okay, very good. My name is Jeff Elkins. I'm the manager for the Parks here at the Southeast Program. We call us a zone manager is my title, I guess. But I have responsibility for everything from the Lime River to Gresham, from the landfill down to Milwaukee. So in Southeast Portland, all of the parks are my responsibility as well as community centers. And in the summer, my hobbies are some of the concerts and outdoor movies and some of the programs program. So they keep me definitely busy. What I want to talk to you about a little bit is some of the background with Colonel Summers. I've been involved with the park for a little more than 10 years now, and I feel like I'm just now starting to get a real feel for a lot of the issues around that park. Our public spaces, as that park is one, are all of ours collectively. They're our spaces, and we own them. We put a lot of investment in them. We walk our dogs. We take our children to play in our parks. They're definitely our parks. The charge that I have as the steward of the park is to help make it and maintain it safe, clean, and good is the term that I like to use. And there are times where that's a little more difficult, a little more challenging. It's sometimes difficult to keep it green when we don't have enough rain. It's difficult sometimes to keep it clean. At times, there's big events, the 4th of July and such. I think you get the idea. Again, that's the responsibility that we have within the pavilion, within the Bureau. At Colonel Summers, we have one asset that I'm particularly concerned about. And that's what we're here to speak about tonight. And that's the picnic pavilion. It's a wonderful, just a beautiful pavilion. However, there are some real safety concerns that we have for not only staff but visitors as well. And as a result of that, it's my responsibility and our Bureau's responsibility to do what we can to help protect that asset, to make sure that that asset is open with access into the future. And at times, that means that we have to take certain steps. And indeed, one of those steps is to enclose the asset, which is what we're here to talk about tonight. We have very significant maintenance challenges related to this, whether it be vandalism of the individual picnic pavilion, whether it's vandalism of restrooms, whether it's drug use. There's a myriad of different things that happen in and around that particular pavilion. And as a result, the neighbors that live in the immediate area surrounding the park started really voicing concerns to me some time ago back in the spring. And collectively, with two different meetings, just two different ones that I attended, there were over 90 people there present. And the message was extremely clear to me that we need to do something. We have issues having to do with inappropriate behavior in the park. And I got to thinking, and we got to thinking, well, those issues are also creating just a massive maintenance challenge for us. So, in response, we have again decided to take some action and enclose that shelter. What's going to happen down the road after the enclosure, we haven't had that conversation with you yet, but we will. In other words, how do I gain access, and what's the permit process, and is there going to be a fee, and those kind of questions. But again, this is only one part of a much larger problem we have at this park. And indeed, it would be unfair to characterize these problems to say they're only at Colonel Summers. We have many of these issues at so many of our parks. In fact, I'd say the majority of our parks are suffering many of the same ills, the same rural challenges. So what I've done is I put we call it dashboard. Some people call it just a list of potential improvements. It looks like this. And in some of the neighborhood meetings, we passed this out. We edited this several times. This is the document that's living and breathing and changing. And in fact, this went to the printer on the 9th of October, and already there's one important change that I'll describe to you in a moment. Without taking too much of your time, I'm just going to give you just a synopsis of some of the more important things. What this does is tell you what are the steps that we're taking right now and into the future to help revitalize the park, to help make it so it's more usable for all. For instance, there's an old wading pool that's there that the state mandated that we close. Well, we're pleased to say that by November of 17, we expect there to be a new water feature installed in that space. So it's going to have a lot of vibrancy and positive experiences. What we call a loo, which is a restroom, it's a little different than the built-in restrooms. We'll add there to add capacity. As many of you know, there are times where there's so much activity in the park, we have to bring in those blue portable restrooms. And although they serve a very important purpose, the loo is going to be much better than a permanent structure. A futsal court next to the tennis courts, if you've seen that, with help from the Timbers Army Operation Pitch Invasion, we were able to take that area that was a blacktop and really improve it. Now I'm pleased to say it's getting quite a bit of use. I don't know how much use it'll get in the wintertime, but it gives an opportunity for people to come and kick the soccer ball in a more organized fashion. Actually, a futsal ball, just for trivia, is a different kind of ball. Amanda, do you have a question?
I'm sorry, if you want us to hold questions, so you
If we could, let me finish.
Yes,
my
after
comments.
that.
Okay, that would be great. I've listed a number of other things, but I'm not going to go through the whole list. We've done a lot of cleaning and signage repair. We've done a horticulturist on our team. I thought they did a really good job in the area behind the restroom, going in and really cleaning and pruning up. They're very aggressive amount of plants. I think it's really, really helpful in that area, and we plan on trying to keep up with it as we can. Previous year, we did a number of tree prunings and such over behind the tennis courts. Some of that was for a safety purpose. Some of that was for the ability to use the tennis courts because the trees were dropping stuff into the courts. But nevertheless, I think that helped. And tomorrow there will be contractors in the park redoing the paving in the area immediately behind the picnic pavilion. And that's going to make things look a lot better, plus safer. There's no potholes back there, and I'm not real comfortable with how that is. So we just coincidentally, as of today, authorized a contractor to go in, and he'll be doing the work tomorrow. We'll have a little bit of a window involved. So, in the interest of being completely transparent, I have to tell you that I don't want to profess, we don't want to suggest that these improvements are going to fix the problem completely. They're steps in the right direction. They'll help to again bring a sense of vibrancy and help us to maintain the park more. We're going to have a lot more users. I think that it's going to be really just really helpful for the overall health of the park. However, many of the problems that we have throughout this park and others are not solvable in one easy community meeting, and certainly not by just parks. These are issues that we have social issues, we have issues with resourcing for our police department, we have all kinds of different enforcement issues, but I wanted to be open and transparent that again, these are steps, these are things that we're able to do now, and we are working and advocating in every way possible to get this park and some of these issues come back online. So, are we ready, Joan, for questions? Is that okay? Amanda, you're first.
Do you have an example of what kind of water features the flat pad's going to be? Is there another one that is sort of going to be like in the city already? No?
Marley, I don't think we're there yet.
And will there be hours of operation?
No, so we're not there yet. We'll be the next phase after we complete the gate enclosure and then moving forward with the splash pad.
And will there be hours of operation, like water on, like will it not go on at night, say, the 3 o'clock
because water is very expensive
Yeah.
at times. Any other questions? Hi, Nancy.
So the area that's being paved is the part in the back of the pavilion. I got the idea that it might be the path out to 17th as well. Is that true?
It's starting on, I think it's 17th,
Okay.
is west of the shelter.
Yes.
It's going to run, but it's not going all the way to the other side of the park.
No, just over here.
Yeah, right in that area, about 23 acres. The reason we're not going further at this point is because we have another project having to do with ADA issues that is going to go in and do some more of that paving down the road. And I just didn't want to spend your money twice. We wanted to make sure we could stewards of the tax money. Jim? Great. Great suggestion. I hadn't thought of that end. Okay, I'm not opposed to trying something like that, and we'll see. Portable restrooms in that park.
It's so echoey, can you repeat the?
I'm sorry, what Jim is asking is, in the area near the community garden, if we can think about placing a portable restroom there, because there's folks using the bushes and the grass rather than walking over to the restroom. And my answer is I'm not opposed to trying. We do try where we go back and forth, but I can tell you the history in this park is we've had a number of these torched, burned, knocked over. It's not been pleasant. It's not the end of the world, and there's an expense to it that we kind of plan for sometimes. But I can't say that we can do it on a long-term basis because we haven't had success with it. But we can give it a try. Yeah. Speaking as I should be a parks employee. I don't know the usability of those two restrooms. I just don't know. I don't know. I am thinking the loo would answer that. Is that a true statement? Okay. Well, the loo that will be coming in, it's a little down the road, will definitely be. Oh, I completely understand. I completely understand. You know, maybe the answer is the portable that we put in by the community garden. We can order it up to be an ADA accessible. And we should. Yeah, I can tell you that our system has been around for a long time. And unfortunately, we recognize we have some ADA deficiencies. And in fact, some of the bond projects, and thank you for helping us with the bond, and helping all of us with that. Last year, but that does catch some of those ADA deficiencies. But there are, I mean, to be transparent, there are quite a few in our system. Okay, I understand.
Yeah. I've been talking to you, 35 years, I've worked within about 25 time the city did that, they took the laurel edge down and they put platina in there. Now that platina is over 25 feet tall, and none of it's been trimmed down. And so my question is do you plan on lowering that edge down and repairing the cycling fence that's been torn down over a year? Up the stairs.
I can-
I've tried to put it back up, and there's been talk of taking those stairs out, which would surely help us, because there's only two of us that own property on 18th Avenue.
Right.
And being that the park is open on both 20th and 17th, that stairwell, or stairway, serves no purpose without to Belmont Street, because you have access from the park on that pathway that you're speaking of. And when the police exclude the people that are in the park causing problems, they come up that stairwell and hang out at the top of their stairs. And it's been quite an issue that we've tried to deal with over the years. Like I say, we've had the property for 35 years. And I was wondering if there was anything, about closing those stairs off, or at least giving them better.
We've talked about that considerably over the last number of years. We had a recommendation from our friends at the police bureau at the time, a little more than 2 years ago, was that we have to consider that carefully, because that also restricts their ability to have that route where people then can stay right outside of the park and be separated by a fence. And I don't know what the answer is, but I think that that's a discussion that we still have to have for later. I think it's a very legitimate question. It's just one that we haven't answered yet.
And the fence,
Okay,
said they keep that fence
that was
level.
supposed to be kept, and that's never, it's going to happen.
okay.
I can't remember, and I thought about it this morning.
Then I can commit to taking the horticulturist on site between now and the end of the week, and we'll definitely take a look. I'll go there personally. And
I appreciate it.
absolutely, all
You
right.
have a question? Yeah, I'd just like to piggyback on that. Hi, Jeff. So, is it Betsy Redfern that you were referring to?
Yes, Betsy is the maintenance supervisor and a talented horticulturist.
And so we walked together based on our task force and crime prevention design. And from our neighborhood task force perspective, there was a lot of progress made in August by trimming. I'm really surprised to see on here that you guys perceive that the trimming back of hedges and bushes are complete from our perspective, and it's evidenced by continued illegal activity around the stairwell, in those bushes, people loitering, using the bathroom, shooting up, you name it. We're probably 25% there. So thinning needs to continue. There's whole areas that weren't even touched. The lighting issues that we talked about bringing some more light into that issue. So if you could speak to both those things. One is, why you perceive that it's done when I feel like our group is really clear about the level that we wanted to go to. We never got any feedback about where you guys were in that process until today. Number two, what needs to happen to be much more aggressive in the sort of re-landscaping, at least massive cleaning back of that area. And then number three, what is the lighting update to make that place feel less creepy and dark at night?
Okay, there's three different questions. Address the lighting. The lighting issue has to do with our ability to go in with the existing electrical system and actually place lighting in there that will light up the stair area without lighting up everybody's backyards. And so we've asked that analysis to take place. We have electrical folks who can tell us that. At this point, I don't have another answer for it. There was a discussion of PGE's area of responsibility, and it just isn't. This is something that belongs to the Parks
So you
Bureau.
guys can take that up without having to involve PG.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We need to, we could put light poles up, and there's all kinds of things we can do. The question is, what capacity do we have to do that kind of work? It can get expensive very quickly. And so, again, that's something we're looking at. As far as the pruning goes, we have a set amount of, again, capacity within our horticultural staff. But you know what? We're going to go back there again. Since I'm learning much more here tonight again, Betsy and I will walk the area. If you'd be kind enough to give us 15 minutes and we'll walk through there one more time again.
There was one other point, which was some of the shrubbery was considered trees.
Yeah.
So Betsy thought that was not in capacity. Did you guys ever talk to an arborist with the city, like what needs to
Yes,
happen?
we called in the necessary, we called necessary workers, the forestry folks, and at that point, I don't know where in the queue this is going to be. They have their hands absolutely full, and we're attempting to get priority as we can.
Oh, you did, yes. So 3 more questions?
Okay, so,
Thank you.
so mine is just a comment, just that you don't ignore work parties from the neighbors. I mean, if you need to do that kind of work, you know, we're good at cleaning and cutting. You can help.
Done. Actually, volunteers throughout the Bureau do over 40% of all the maintenance work. I appreciate that effort and that suggestion. We will take you up on that offer. The chainsaw, no. Sir.
I don't know, probably, but how long till the pavilion's gonna be closed off? Is it like solid?
Yeah, we'll talk to the schedule in a few minutes. Yeah.
Well, just to add, I'm sure you I
How do we know about that? How do we know this meeting was going to happen?
Well, there were about 300 flyers that were sent. Elise, can you speak to it?
Sure. We actually distributed 300 flyers to the surrounding properties around the park, and then another about 150 to 200 in the park itself on several different occasions. We posted 4 signs in the park, different locations in the park, and then we also emailed, I think 3 times. So we can like emails are down. So we have an email list, and the list you signed up on when you came in tonight would add you if you're not already on there, add you and you'll get follow-up information. And then we also posted on some Facebook pages for some of the
Community Association, BCA page, I posted it there.
yeah, there's something for PCA. We put it on Right to Freedom 2. We notified a lot of the host organizations, like Transition Projects and St. Francis Church, and a lot of different ones. We've got lists here for you to know. Yeah, we'll go through that list with you if you're really interested. But we did make every effort to get those out.
Mary, I thought your comment was twofold. What was your first statement?
We was here, that was horrified, I think that's been going on in the park, it's really made it very ugly.
Yeah, if I can respond to that. It's a tough decision, and when our maintenance supervisor, Betsy, and I walked the park, in fact, we were together, her response in some cases was, no, I can't do that. I just can't. I can't do that to these poor plants. She pointed out some that were upwards of 80 years old. And some of those we didn't cut back. We left those because historically, it's just we didn't have the heart to do it. However, we had to make a decision based on what we thought were the safety issues for individual people are camping back in there, and it's the worst of two evils. I didn't want to go that route as aggressive as we have, but I think it was the right decision. I really do. I don't know another way to explain it or express it other than we've got to weigh out those issues as stewards for the safety of individual users and community members versus the green on that part of the park. So we didn't touch the use. There's some plants that I don't understand. So,
So Jeff, you talked about some of the safety concerns, the drug use and vandalism.
yes, sir.
You were referring to the houseless community when you said that, correct?
No.
I think that you were.
No, I can tell you that in my opinion, and this is just me, that the Monday Fun Day that happens on Mondays is much more responsible for a lot of the ills in the park.
So how is closing off the park pavilion going to stop any of these safety problems? Is it really that you're trying to attack the homeless community? Is that what it is? 55 people died on the streets of Portland last year. These are people struggling to live. And you call them vandals, and you call them drug addicts. And these are common generalizations.
But sir, I didn't use the term houseless or homeless. This is not about that. It's about protecting the asset with the resources that I don't have.
I understand it's an inconvenience,
Yeah,
these people
no,
to you.
no,
I understand
this
they're
is not an
inconvenience.
inconvenience.
They're struggling to live.
Hold on a
They're
second.
trying to live.
Whoa.
Hold on.
You're gonna hear some perspectives.
I live right across the street from the park. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Honestly, I feel like, I understand it's an inconvenience.
No.
Just a second. Could you have something to say? Something else to say?
I wanted to know how the city's plan is going to make the city usable for all,
Okay.
everybody. Nobody owns the park. People that live near the park don't own the park. That park is for everybody.
You've asked your question. Just a second.
The issues that are taking place in and around that picnic pavilion are really making it difficult for other positive uses of that asset. And so by enclosing it, it gives us the opportunity to somewhat regulate the access. So we know that the access will be there, that it doesn't completely be beaten up and degraded and whatever have you. There are some real issues that go on in and around that pavilion. In the other parks where it's enclosed, particularly Cow Park, you don't have the same level of problems.
Okay. We're gonna stop the Q&As now and talk about the pavilion, and then we'll have time for Q&A. Please remember to raise your hand again. Please remember.
Could we have like one perspective of, it's a very legitimate question, which is, are we trying to exclude the homeless from the park?
Are we trying to exclude the homeless from the park?
And I think it would be useful just to hear from a couple, not myself, I've got but a couple of neighbors who have been there for 30 years, to hear the perspective on that question.
First, we'll do the enclosure first, and then we'll talk. Okay? Okay, we're gonna talk about the enclosure now. Hello?
So my name is Marla Vivian, I'm the property manager, in the development of the enclosure for the park. So as we move into the implementation phase, the focus of my work will be related to development design that is attractive, is friendly, and is fitting in with the neighborhood. To help us do that, flex session
decision, it's already forgotten, you have a design, you're not even entertaining concerns about the homeless, and I think that is just broken.
Well, 2 years ago, he didn't want it.
You know what? Quality of your life versus mine is the same, right?
Actually not, I'm a struggling
You know nothing.
artist. You don't know shit. What do you know about Portland? You talk about Monday Fun Day? Speak to the schools, speak to the parents. Those are Portland youth who have homes, who have parents. They're the ones drinking and doing drugs in the park. Food not bombs? Homeless people go there for shelter. You want to close the pavilion during the winter months? Are you crazy?
When you're gone, after you've done your good service for the day of feeding the homeless, which we appreciate, when you leave, they stay. They drink. They do. Let me finish.
The homeless don't need our food.
Stop. I didn't interrupt you.
They don't need our food. Go ahead.
Your service is appreciated. When you leave, they don't. You leave, they stay, I stay.
It's the same approach to St. Francis Park.
Please, can we just continue with our discussion, and we'll get a chance to have a discussion with the entire group
Is she going to respond to what that woman said?
in about 5 minutes. Let's finish this discussion. Please.
So, as I was saying, Parks Association are intent to design gates to be pleasing to the neighborhood. Architects currently developing some options for parks for us to review, and at that point, we'll make this available in the public forum and ask for your feedback. We anticipate that the gates will be constructed in next year's 2016.
Now, just a second. A couple people want to make a comment. You want to say something?
I said plenty.
Okay. Andy?
My name is Andy Eisman. If you ask any of the homeless people, they know my name. I'm in favor of the park closure, this closure. They know who I am, they know what I believe in, and they come to me for help. They tell me they feel victimized in the park. They don't feel the shelter's safe. Do you want me to give you the names of the people who don't sleep in the park anymore? Tim, do you know Tim? I visited him in the hospital. Do you know he was in the hospital for 2 months? Because he had pneumonia. Danny, you guys know Tim? Do you know Tim? Do you know Tim? Or Chris? Because I've lived in my neighborhood for 25 years. Ask them what they think of me, what they think of Elena, what they think of Naomi. Ask these officers what they do for the homeless, and what they see me do for the homeless, and what they don't always agree in.
That's a nice sentiment, and I understand
It's
that.
not a sentiment.
You're saying that
You
they're
have
going
no
to
idea who I am or who we are.
But when,
You have no idea
when the Parks Department guy, Jeff, when he says that they're just a bunch of vandals and drug addicts, that's a sweeping generalization. That's disgusting.
That is
Especially
not
when
the
people
homeless
are dying on the
population.
streets.
Absolutely. And you should talk to the homeless people who I've helped and the ones who I've helped get off the street. I'm very much an advocate. You should look at my name on Join's website, which says I've been donating money there for 15 years. I actually was the one who worked with Rob Justice, the founder of Join, and suggested they meet with the police before police do homeless camp sweeps, that they go to Join and work with the neighborhoods and work with the homeless. So I'm very active in the homeless community. The homeless in my neighborhood all know me. Ask them how many I've given food to and how many I help. Sleeping in that shelter is not safe.
How is caging? I understand the city has a beautiful plan to make an artistic cage for this park pavilion and how beautiful it's going to be, but how is it going to solve anything?
He just told you that there's homeless people in our neighborhood who feel
Well, it's
unsafe.
because that's
They
not-
feel
How is it going to
unsafe.
solve anything?
It's not going to solve. It's the beginning. So
He even said not solve
Okay,
it completely.
so
it's not going to do anything.
I walked here. David, who happens to be a housed person, I've known since his family moved here from Texas 20 years ago. His mother actually was one of the people who won an award when we did a Take Back the Night in the park when we used to have a prostitution ring operating out of the park. David's a drug dealer. David is dealing drugs in the park, and guess where he was? He was in the pavilion. He won't be there anymore.
Okay, does anyone else have any comments? Anyone else? This meeting tonight is not about helping the homeless, it's really about talking about the culture.
You're not helping the homeless.
Yeah.
Emphasis on and the close of it is consistent with the existing ordinance, rather than a modern or add-on to pass with the building.
Okay, thank you. Oh,
Well, I had never heard this before, and I don't want to.
okay.
I've heard about it, I used to, I used to believe in it, and I never done this. With the numbers.
Okay, no, no, some things.
I can see.
Okay, okay,
With more than a couple years ago.
okay, thank you. Thank you.
I have two questions. First, I wonder about, how will people be granted access to the pavilion once it's enclosed? What will that process look like?
That's still a discussion, a conversation that we need to have. I can tell you that typically they go through our reservation center or online. You can go and fill out the little, name, address, and what have you. Now, a lot of the permits require a minimal fee. The neighborhood association would get access for so many visits without a fee. We, as a community, can talk about what it takes to do that. Does there need to be a fee? Maybe, maybe not. Do we need to have, does it need to be open only by permit? Is it open certain days? Is it not? This enclosure is set, not to lock everybody out all the time, just the contrary. It's set to give us the ability to control the access so that positive use can take place.
Define
Because right now,
positive.
there's not a lot of positive use.
Define positive.
Not
Things that are legal.
urinating, not swearing, not shooting.
You mean supporting the mercantile class and money and the money class and elitism. So transparent.
The ones shooting up, prostituting.
Those are all things you're saying about the homeless people, right? Those scary homeless people, a lot of them are people of color, a lot of them are people of color, right? It's like you want to say bad things about black people, but you can't. And you say about homeless people. That's what it is. You're a white person.
Just a second.
And I'm a racist.
Yeah, hell yeah. You want to say, you make all these claims, they're all prostitutes and drug addicts, right? That's what all the homeless people are.
Matt, let me take you seriously.
Just a second.
I don't like what she's saying. She's saying they're all prostitutes.
Can we quiet it down for just a minute, please? Just a second. Just a second. Just a second.
I've heard you fill in sort of missing lots of information, so it became a little frustrating because we didn't have information. So give us information, keep us updated as to what the timeline is. It sounds as though the architect has been awarded a contract. What's the timeframe of delivery of design, approval of design, beginning of the process, and completion of the project?
So we're moving pretty aggressively to move the design, preliminary design to be done within, like, say, 4 to 6 weeks, possibly. I
decision made.
Yeah, I think so. Here's how it'll work. This isn't gonna be a permanent bar system on this. It's a movable, openable gate. I think I made that word up, openable. Which means that once we get together at the end, and we talk about, that's what I said, we haven't had that conversation yet. We can talk about what it all is gonna take. What rules are we gonna apply to when it's open and when it's not?
I mean, I'm curious how the decision to put the enclosure in was made in the first place. It didn't seem like the community was really part of the discussion as a whole.
Okay, well, we need to own two things with that. Okay, first off, we had a visit with neighbors through the neighborhood association, had 2 visits. And in going through that, we have to recognize that not all the stakeholders were at the table. We have to own that. However, there were quite a few of the neighbors that lived and surrounded the park. They're not all the users. We didn't invite everybody to the table as we should have. Okay, I own that. We own that. But the second problem is that there are times where the maintenance requirements and the safety within the park have to rise to a level where we have to take action as the stewards of the property. And this is the case. This is exactly what's happening. It's gotten to the point where we have to do something with that picnic pavilion. We have to.
There's been the Buckley Association has some meetings, and everyone forums where everyone indicated concerns or recommendations for the community to come and participate. Because of the tons of days of the park, within the park, a task force was created of community members who bothered the Buckley Community Association to get some attention to that park. This has been going on since the beginning of the year. We are now here in October, and you show up, and now you wonder, why haven't I been informed? This process has been going on for the last 2 years, and the only time you people show up is at the very end and throw a big old fat fit.
More like when we're told. Come on, I was there 2 years ago.
Where's your vacation spot?
Oh, come on, man.
Please.
Yeah, where we, as I said, we're yet to have that conversation. And so it's kind of premature to say how that's all going to be managed. We thought about starting that conversation this evening with a following approach, but I think it would have taken more time than we have this evening.
Oh, yeah.
No, free is free.
Look at this dude.
You, free?
Well, for the question is basically, are you saying it's for the safety of the park, or are you saying
No, just the opposite. It's always been our intention. Always been our intention. This isn't, I know that it adversely affects people who are homeless, is what I'm hearing. That is not the intention. The intention is we've got an asset that we need to take care of. We need to manage it properly, and we need to manage the park in a more proactive, proper manner, because there is a sense of lawlessness at times. And this is not about just Monday Fun Day, and it's not homeless or houseless populations. It's about all kinds of behavior. It's about very young people. It's about sports groups that used to want to play there. They don't want to play there anymore. It's about a young child who stood up at a community meeting and said, I want to go play in my park again. And I didn't know how to respond. Really, we have an asset, we have a park, and we need to do something proactively to help manage it. Otherwise, we're going to lose the asset. It's going to, the kind of maintenance that we have to do, the things that we have to do over the summer for those restrooms, were extremely time consuming and extremely expensive.
4,
So, you're talking about this being a community asset. If you lock up this pavilion, then we'll have to serve food in the rain all winter. That's gonna be our reality.
Is this for food not bombs?
Yeah.
We can get you a permit?
For money?
No, we can talk, that's my point. We haven't made those decisions, we haven't had those discussions. Maybe that's how we're going about it.
Just to be clear, people in the community around the park all support food not bombs, and they even suggested a key be provided to food not bombs so you have free access to it.
So someone would come and unlock
Just a
it.
second.
No, we give you.
That has to be worked out, but yes, there's no reason why.
Who was number 6? 6. 6? Okay. Please.
Well, I asked Jeff this earlier, but I just don't see what kind of like data or where did you come up with this idea as being a deterrent? It doesn't seem like to me that this, like, a lot of people have been saying that it's gonna do anything. And if that is closed off, then aren't you just moving the crime to another part of the park?
I can tell you at least in one other park where we've done this, where I've been, active with it, the problems, for the most part, went away. They didn't go away completely. This is not going to solve all of these issues, but it's a step along with the pruning and with the paving and the lube and the splash pad and all the other things we do, and increased enforcement as well. That we've been able to work with the police this summer. It's been much more effective at the end of the summer than it was going. No. I'm sorry, Powell Park.
That the majority of cars that would build an enclosed area, don't the majority of them already have fences around them? It's not like you're picking on this part only.
I don't know the answer to that question. I don't have a lot of pavilions like this in the east.
I think you're not picking on this part only. The majority of them already are enclosed.
But it also depends on where in the city,
All over the city.
where in the city the particular pavilion is. This particular park, though, seems to be prone
I
to.
realize that it doesn't happen. If you go to the majority of the parks with the pavilion, they are used regularly by the people. It's not like they're enclosed and you can never use it. The majority of them are used for everyday family activities, neighborhood activities, no matter if they're homeless or not. Everybody is able to use them throughout the day. You're not picking on this part only. They're already in existence.
Thank you. Appreciate
You
it.
guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Jarvis, this gentleman here and this gentleman here. Let us start out.
Well, I help organize Not Bombs, and I would like to say I appreciate the neighborhood, and I do hear the neighbors' concerns. And I also work in mental health, so I work with people that are houseless on a daily basis. And part of it has been caused by the city's, lack of being able to take care of the homeless problem, or, we set initiatives and it's never really worked out. Which is sad, and hopefully it'll change. But, the park does belong to everybody. And I would like to make sure that, from my perspective, I would like to see that, everybody is respected. I think I hear a lot of anger. I hear a lot of people upset. But I think we can work together as a community to solve the problem. And I know that may mean getting off the thing. And I would like to hear about, access for Food Not Bombs. And if that means like we could have a key to it and use it, because we use it weekly. And we don't generally feed a lot of homeless people, actually. I think probably, I count and I watch, probably 80% of people are community members or working families or individuals who appreciate what we do. So, I just want to say I really do appreciate the neighbors as well. So,
without any question, to support for your organization and the work that you do. We'll figure out some way to do
If that
that.
means anarchist movement. Yeah. I was just thinking like that. Clarify. Like someone to hold the key to it, or something like that, and have some kind of agreement.
Yeah, we have a very complex key system.
Yeah.
It won't be a problem to provide a key
Right.
that you can use for that. It won't
Okay.
interfere with the rest of the assets in the city.
I think that's really some of our legal from FUNAPOM's concern is really the main root is can we still use it and monitor and police it, and know who to call if there is an issue.
You had a question?
No, I had a statement. What happened over on 26th and Powell, the gating off the pavilion, Food Not Bombs used to serve there. They no longer do. They moved to Colonel Summers. It happened because of the pavilion being gated off. This is really just getting rid of them. That is my statement. And also, for the two meetings that were had, or whatever, where the decision was made to gate it off, were done just in the neighborhood association meetings, not with the actual neighborhood itself. And also, if it's going to be gated off, and the people of Portland are going to pay for it, they should be told about this decision, as opposed to it being announced after it's already been made. Involve them, because this really was it clearly states on the flyer that we're going to talk about gating it off. It doesn't say we're going to. What do you think about it being gated off? It was misrepresented. Sure.
Hi, everybody. I'm Terry Hoffman. I am your crime prevention coordinator. That basically dialect news people. I had all of the neighborhoods on this side of the river that belong to the precinct. So I work for the Office of Neighborhood Involvement, and I have been listening to what everyone's been saying. And the part that I would like to speak to is, how old is the building? Okay, 1920s or 30s. One of the things that I do for the city is to work with neighbors, work with businesses, community members, to make places safer, to protect the people who use them, to protect the property themselves. That's my organization. And from a crime prevention perspective, when I'm hearing about the damage to the building itself, I'm not talking about who is doing the damage. I think the building is sustaining damage, and that there is money available to protect the building. My perspective is that this is what needs to be done. And it protects the building. It will make it a much more pleasant place for people to be able to use. When you have a meeting on the road and you talk about how will we get a key, how will we have access, how is this going to work, all of that remains to be seen. And it sounds like nothing's been decided, and that the park board is minimal to making sure that as many people as possible can use this. It's just going to be closed in the wee hours when there aren't eyes on the property to protect. That's when people who vandalize things come out. They come out at night when everyone is sleeping. And that's not true. What would you say? They're out for one time. Oh, well, I'm not talking about, yeah, the taggers, when you're talking
you had your hand up first. Oh, you had your hand up. I think you were first and you're second, you're third. First, second, third.
I apologize for speaking without raising my hand before. I am angry. I'm tired of weak ethics. Portland does have a homeless problem. If you happen to live by a park with a pavilion, you should be grateful that the park has a pavilion to shelter people in the cold and wet season. If we're not willing to address the park and the homeless people in it, you should not be living in Portland. Okay? If you're cold and wet and you go up to a lock gate and you say, I have nowhere to go, but there's a pavilion and I can't get in it, man, I feel like shit right now. Think about that. And think about the overall ethics of the city and how we can come together to make the parks a humane and public place so that everybody can feel safe and secure.
We really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next?
Thanks. Yeah, I was curious whether you guys would be open to the question of people gaining access to the pavilion in order to sleep there at night. If they're on waiting lists for homeless shelters and they know where to go and it's snowy or rainy, would those people be able to access the pavilion to get out of the rain?
She's asking if we could make it so that the gates could be open for people to sleep in the evening. Here's the long and the short of that answer. Those are political decisions that our elected officials who represent us get to make and have to make as far as deciding what is appropriate use of the park space and where isn't. Okay? Right now, the park closes at 10 o'clock in the evening, and once it's closed, anybody who is in the park is not following the rules that are set down by the council. So, your option is go to city council and talk with your elected officials. And if we get the word, like the city of Vancouver, city council is doing right now, they're considering a measure to actually open up and say that sleeping is okay. Right now, so that you know, there is no, technically in the evenings after the park closes, there's no camping in the public spaces. It's a rule that has already been defined. In our business, I will tell you that there's nothing wrong, there's nothing illegal, there's nothing immoral about being homeless. And we don't want to have a role where we make decisions that adversely affect people that way. But sometimes, from what I'm hearing tonight, that it will, we have to make those decisions in the greater good of all.
When Jeff is talking about talking to city council, on Wednesdays, that's their work session day, and for the first half hour, I think it's from 9 to 9:30, people can call in and sign up for 3 minutes, and you can talk to city council about whatever you like. So that might be a time for you to voice your concerns, and the mayor just recently had, rather, he could decide on his own to address but he asked for it to go to the entire council. And I had a training today, I sat at a table with Commissioner Fish, and we were talking about what our concerns were for the city. And homelessness was by far the biggest issue that my fellow city employees who were attending the training were talking about. And he said, do you know that that is the single most important issue that the city is facing right now? That the community has made it very clear. We've heard it from the business people, we've heard it from the neighbors, we've heard it from the homeless advocates. That is the biggest thing. And the last week, the city council, all of them, it was unanimous, voted to declare a state of emergency. And that would allow them to free up extra funding to put into homeless sheltering, stopgap sorts of things until they can do something that's going to be a more long-term solution, and also allow them to relax some of the codes codes that are in place right now preventing the city from using vacant city buildings. And so that would allow them to maybe relax some of the codes, maybe retrofit some of the buildings so that people won't be on the streets this winter when it's cold and wet. So I think that's great information because different people have been individually saying this is such a problem, but it's kind of reached this critical mass now where everyone is saying we have to do something about this. So if you're interested, I think if you were to call 823-4000, that's the city county information and referral phone number, they can connect you with the scheduler who will get you your 3 minutes in the sun into the city council. So it's 9 to 9:30 on Wednesdays. I don't know how far out they're booked, but if it's an important thing to you, that's certainly the best way to get here because no one's going to be talking about it.
My name is Andy Asper. Just, I'm sorry, just to be clear, in every time we met, we had concerns about the park. Food Not Bombs was the topic of discussion, and no one wanted to have that program. And we want to do everything that we suggested when there was the first idea proposed to the shelter that Food Not Bombs make sure they have access. There was absolutely no one who objected. There's no one who, around the neighborhood that doesn't support Food Not Bombs that I know. And I think Officer Fox will talk to this point. This year was particularly bad. I personally witnessed 4 extraordinarily violent assaults. They were all against homeless people. And I can tell you some of their names. The 2 I didn't witness, one involved a man getting his head split open with an axe. It started in the pavilion. Another involved a brass knuckle fight more than once. That person, Zachary Andrews, happens to be homeless. But that's not why we called him. He was attacking homeless people in the park. And Officer Fox, who's responded to many of my calls because I see a lot of the violence that has happened in the park. And that's always when I call the police. Someone's being hurt, please come and help. We'll tell you, you probably regularly see me talking to homeless people. Bill and Lisa, I bring coffee to on a regular basis. They actually came to our house yesterday asking if they could contribute. We live in a van in Pass for the last 2 years, but I've lived in the neighborhood for about 25 years. He used to be a heroin addict, speedball actually. And I drove to a hearing where I was testifying on his behalf because he was the one who assaulted. So you're not talking to a bunch of people who are housed who are against homeless people or have a vendetta against Food Not Bombs. We're talking about a lot of the same concerns you have. We're interested in the homeless being safe. If they slept in the park shelter, they'd be beat up now, and that's what's going to happen. And it started a couple of years ago. We raised concerns, and this year was sort of the height of extreme violence against homelessness. And I can't tell you that there was X number of people who were housed or X number of people who were homeless perpetrating a crime. I know Bill was just threatened by David, this housed individual who's a drug dealer in the park, and we don't know why. But I'm going to be talking to some other directors, just told about it, and I before last. And I told Bill, who comes to me and says, can you help me? So I consider myself a homeless advocate, as well as many of the other neighbors. And we're not all perfect visionaries. We don't have, this is the best solution. But I think there's a lot of love and concern for all the people who live in the community, some of them now, and some of them not.
So you're saying it's a solution?
Where we go after this? Like I said, is you have to go to City Hall, that's the only way.
We appreciate your comments.
What should we do? What are we gonna do after this?
So what are we doing after this? Okay, just a minute. I know there's going to be a meeting to talk about management of the building. But you want to talk about
Well, it's just a little premature as of yet. We haven't gotten that far. Remember, this is going to be put in next summer. And so at that point, before it's constructed, before it's all done, we'll be sending out notices and getting together again, talking about how we manage that best.
Okay. Final questions, final comments, please.
Okay, so if you said it was not a solution to homelessness, what is it a solution to?
Say that again.
Not a solution to homelessness, what is closing the pavilion a solution to?
Oh, what is, okay. It's
Yeah, it's absolutely not a solution to homelessness. It's a solution to our maintenance challenges, to protecting the asset that you all entrusted us to protect. And that really is what it comes down to. We cannot continue to see the degradation within that picnic pavilion, the restrooms that are part of it, and all around it. It needs to be carried forward, and we need a proactive solution to ensure that we can continue to maintain it properly. And that's why we're moving in this direction.
final comment.
Just preventing its use by putting a gate around it means that it will not be a shelter for anybody. And there was one there, I don't think it says a shelter for anybody. And that won't fix it. So it's a personal perspective. The pavilion is meant as a shelter, not as a shelter.
It's just finished.
Can you repeat that, what, Joe? Very hard to hear back.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that?
Sorry, I said that the pavilion, to me, was meant as a shelter, is a shelter, and I personally use it as a shelter. When it's raining, I go in there and wait till it stops pouring down rain. It rains a lot. So I think by putting that gate around it, it's closed, and opens only is keeping it from being a shelter to everyone, not just other homeless people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just as far as it sounds like this is moving forward. One that hasn't moved forward is the splash pad. It's the first thing here that it says like funded, it's already secured funding. Is that something that will be open to discussion around putting that funding towards other parts of park improvement and not the splash pad? Or maybe if everyone agrees that the splash pad would be a good idea. I personally don't, and maybe we can open that up to another meeting in the future.
So I think the decision's been made, that funding is for splash pad. There are some regulations that limit what the funds can be spent on. We do plan, on having additional other meetings to discuss the location of the splash pad, and there's issues of electricity change, and that would be something that has to be thought out.
When was that decided that we secured that?
It has been a while ago. It was determined that because it closed the wading pool, that it would be replaced with a similar structure, which would be a splash pad.
Final comment. Back
Ye-
here.
Yeah, I'd just like to say the Portland Loo idea, great idea. That's an awesome idea. I love it. That's really, really good. The ones downtown, they're excellent. They stay fairly maintained. You know, they stay clean, everything like that. You could just hose them down. It seems like it works out really, really well. That's an excellent idea. And it's it's open air, so like nothing's, you know, I don't know if that's the design you're going for or whatever, but it's an excellent idea. I've lived here all my life. I'm 34 years old. I grew up in Overlook area. I also like the idea of the water pond. People always ask what that area is for, and I remember playing in it as a kid, and I think that's excellent. So that's all I want to say.
Please.
That's okay. I was just gonna say that one positive use I can think of for just a person with a young family, if the gate is put into, you know, and that means that it's a clean space, I would probably choose to have a birthday party there. I have always had to have my own children's birthday parties elsewhere because there's urine there, and I imagine nobody wants to sit in there, not even people who feel like they have to. So, you know, things, if it were, if this were put into place, I think that it would be a more welcoming environment for other uses, and that's just one of my examples that I think we probably would. Or even just let my children go there. I don't let them run in there because there's stuff there that I don't want them playing in. So just from a perspective of someone right there.
I want to thank you all for coming this evening. We really appreciate your comment. And there's a comment card, I understand.
Form.
You have comment card?
Comment form, and there's 2 boxes on each table here, if you would fill out your comment form. And we also have it online at our website, and if you could, Marianne, could you tell the website? www.portlandpark